3, 2, 1, action.
Recent studies at the Colorado State University say that the Hurricane Ella, the most recent hurricane, has been above average numbers. And it's very crazy because it's above average numbers, and that has not happened.
What you just saw was an example of a media event, which is an event purposely staged for the media and is significant just because the media is there. The reason people do this is because political success depends on effectively communicating your message. Gaining control over the political agenda involves getting one's priorities listed at the top of the daily news. And people do this by media events and TV commercials. Both these examples are largely about image making. Not only is it important for campaigns, but also for day-to-day governing. Politicians' press images are good indicators of their influence. Without effective communication through the media, politicians can hardly lead the country.
Do you think the world was better when Justin Bieber had his bowl cut?
No comment. How does global warming make you feel?
It makes me all sad. How do you feel about those shippers who ship Dora and Diego together? Love them. Okay. Stop the video!
This just in. That was an example of a press conference, and a press conference is a meeting of public officials with reporters.
Pinky's the best little pony. He's ready to go. He's big. You should vote for me because I'll end global hunger.
And I'll save global warming.
Vote for me because I'll revive the polar bears.
The slap that was showed in the video was metaphorically talking about the FCC. The FCC, or Federal Communication Commission, are in charge of regulating the use of airwaves. By narrowcasting, since they talk to a particular group of people, in this case they controlled it by not allowing them to talk about My Little Pony but instead politics. Other vocab words that are mentioned in this chapter is investigative journalism, which is a report to reveal scandals, scams, and schemes. Another is selective exposure. It is a process where people consciously choose to get their news from viewpoints that match their own. Lastly, chains, which is a group of published newspapers that account for over 80% of the nation's daily news circulation. 1.
This around me is what's known as print media, and what you're watching right now is the electronic media.
As a fellow politician, I never once acknowledged that I cared about the human rights of the human population as a whole and as a collective. Throughout that long speech, that 10-second clip that you just saw was an example of a soundbite that was portrayed to the media that was taken out of context, as the full speech from that long speech was, I do not care about human rights of the human population as a collective. Rather, I place more emphasis on individual rights. As you can see, sound bites can be very detrimental to the reputation of a fellow politician, as it can be taken extremely out of context.
That right there was an example of a trial balloon, which is an intentional news leak done to assess the political reaction of something. Beats are specific locations in which information frequently comes from, and many reporters will specialize in specific locations to become masters and know what's going on specifically in those locations. A talking head is when someone is directly talking into a camera and is considered visually unstimulating. An example is what I'm doing right now with the camera.
What's your baby's name? Here's the father's name. Is it true? Got the rumor
That video is an example of how media can affect public opinion, in which the baby I was holding was a symbol of innocence, and to shield it from the media can also help shield it from being influenced by the media's opinions. Because since the media is able to manipulate the public, its agenda setting alone can create many consequences. By increasing public attention to specific problems, the media influence the criteria by which the public evaluates public leaders. Answers to certain questions have a heavy dependence on which story the media emphasized, but still a lot is unknown about the effects of media and American behavior, but it is still clear that media is a clear principle.
Love is love. We are human. We have rights. Love is in the air.
Now is an example of policy agenda, the issues that attract the serious attention of public officials and other people actively involved in politics over time. Policy entrepreneurs are people who invest their political capital in an issue. Policy entrepreneurs seek to influence the policy agenda by getting the media to pay attention to the issues that they are particularly concerned with. They employ a variety of strategies to obtain media coverage, including press releases, press conferences, and letter writing. Sometimes they will resort to staging dramatic events that are so interesting and unusual that reporters can hardly resist covering them. In this case, it was the visually colorful flag and actions.
Hi guys, it's Tuesday, which means Taco Tuesday. If you vote for Trump, you get a free taco.
Trump is a very likely candidate of the GOP party. However, DeSantis is also a very possible candidate.
This clip highlights a common argument of the news executives regarding the fact that news coverage is often considered superficial. They say that we should be blaming capitalism or blaming the people because it is not their fault. People would rather be entertained than educated. Thus, they believe if people aren't informed in this high-tech age, it is simply because they do not care enough about complicated political issues.
Majority of the public agree that the press has done more than good, saying political criticism keeps leaders from doing things they shouldn't do. Reporters also have a view of the officials saying they are self-serving, hypocritical, lacking in integrity, and preoccupied with re-election, and support their claims saying exposing office holders is an essential role of the press in the free societies. Reporters also refer to themselves as neither liberals or conservatives, but reformists. They say they focus on the injustice in society and inevitably encourage enlarging the scope of the government, always asking questions in major political problems, saying, what would the government do or what will the government do? Portraying the government to be responsible for these problems and plus others. And even if they are skeptical of the government, they still encourage the government to take on more tasks and responsibilities relying on the government. Now, there are 435 members in the House of Representatives and just one president. However, the president takes about 65% of the news and media coverage, and 29% goes to Congress, and 6% goes for the Supreme Court. This is thanks to modern-day advancements in TV and broadcasting, making it easier to cover over an individual compared to a group, especially a large group such as the House of Representatives. When the media doesn't go over something or are criticized for being superficial, they say it's the people's fault, saying it's what they wanted. However, the network executives say they are more than happy to give the people what they want, but simply, people just don't care enough or they don't demand it enough.